Alright, so today we're going to be doing another ballistic gel test. So if you've watched some of my other videos, you know I don't really like to compare 300 Blackout to 5.56, but rather to other submachine guns, since that was the role it was developed for. But a lot of people are still interested in comparing it to 5.56, so I decided to do a comparison of my two favorite self-defense loadings for each respective caliber. So for 300 Blackout, I've got the Black Hills loaded with 110 grain Barnes TTSX, and for 5.56 I've got the AAC loading with a 77 grain Sierra tipped Match King. So for the 300 Blackout, we're using the Q Honey Badger with a 7-inch 1-in-5 twist barrel, and for the 5.56 we're using a BCM 11.5-inch barrel, and it's got just a 1-in-7. So I think those are pretty typical self-defense barrel lengths for each of these calibers. So that's what we're using. Okay, so first we're going to be doing the 300 Blackout test. So for each of these I step back 10 yards and set up my chronograph. And for the Honey Badger, shooting the 110 grain TTSX, we got a velocity of 2,072 feet per second. So that's a pretty good velocity for a 7-inch barrel. Alright, so with the 300 Blackout, the Barnes bullet is really predictable. So it's after 1.5 inches it opened up, and then we have a 6-inch long wound cavity that's about 1.8 inches tall and 1.8 inches wide. So it's, like I said, it's really predictable. And then after that 6 inches we had a 1/2-inch wound cavity that continued on and exited out the 16-inch block. I've shot this round a lot through ballistic gel, and it pretty much always looks like this. Normally it's a touch bigger, like 2 inches tall, 2 inches wide, but yeah, so really predictable, exactly what I expected, and it's a really impressive wound cavity. And now for the 5.56, did the same thing, stepped back 10 yards, set up the chronograph, and got a velocity of 2,507 feet per second out of the BCM 11.5-inch barrel. So the 5.56 actually had a pretty similar result to the 300 Blackout, which again is sort of what I was expecting. But after a little less than an inch, we had a pretty significant wound track. It was 6 inches long, 2 inches tall, and a little over 2 inches wide. Then it penetrated 15.5 inches and settled there. So less penetration, and then the wound track after the initial large wound track was smaller than the 300 Blackout. So as you can see, they both performed really well. They both performed really similar, honestly. The initial cavity of the 5.56 was a little bit bigger, but the 300 Blackout penetrated more, and where it did penetrate more, the wound track was bigger because obviously the bullet expands way bigger. That's a 1/2 inch, and that's a little over a 1/4 inch. So this may or may not surprise you, but at 10 yards, the impact energy of the 5.56 that we shot was 1,054 foot-pounds, and the 300 Blackout, the same distance at 10 yards, the energy we got on target was 1,025. And when you take into account the rotational energy, it brings it within like 10 foot-pounds of each, so virtually identical. The 5.56 obviously is making up the energy and speed, where 300 Blackout's making it up in weight. So really it's just going to depend on what you're after. Again, this is a 7-inch 300 Blackout barrel versus an 11.5-inch 5.56 barrel. So again, it really is going to depend on what you're trying to do, because the 300 Blackout rifles, at least the Honey Badger, is going to be lighter even with a fully loaded magazine, lighter and shorter, but 5.56 can flex into more uses. It's better at distance and everything. So anyways, that was the ballistic gel test. I don't know if we learned anything or not. Like I said, I don't really like to compare these two just because I think they're different enough that it's kind of worthless. But in terms of close quarters, I don't know. I don't see a huge difference, other than the 300 Blackout ammo is more expensive. This loading in particular is like $2 a round, and this one's like 70-something cents a round. So you get shorter gun, more expensive ammo, similar effect on target, but 5.56 can do better at distance, but 300 Blackout, you can have the subsonic. So I don't know. Is there a winner? I don't know. I don't care. Let me know in the comments what you think. This is why I like to compare 300 Blackout to submachine guns. But anyways, thank you. Bye.